Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. And most importantly, want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day. Obviously, the dads out there, hopefully you're getting your days of choice in, whether it's out on the course, whether it's out on the trails, whether it's on the couch, just getting some time to yourself, whatever your Father's Day ritual is. I hope you're getting all the greatness together and or separate, however you like it. I decided for my Father's Day that I was going to drag my oldest kid, Isaac, onto the show from his comfy confines down in Portland, where he's probably playing some video game or watching some sporting event. And I don't know, probably drinking beer with friends. But instead, he is going to come for at least a little while and hang out with me and talk sports. Isaac, how you doing, kiddo?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here, and this was a complete surprise to me. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what you got in store.
Yeah, well, for people that don't know, Isaac didn't know this was going to happen, and I didn't know it was going to happen until 5 minutes ago. So I just was like, you know what? What I would like to do for my Father's Day podcast edition is talk to my kid. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk a little bit about our sports journey, and one of the things that I wanted to start with, we also have some questions that I've asked if people want to ask questions. Got those that we'll try to answer, and then also if you have other questions, feel free to submit those either in chat or elsewhere. But Isaac, people know that I'm Seahawks obsessed. You grew up knowing that I was Seahawks obsessed. What is your first memory of me and football? Can you think of, like, I would have to imagine it was something like scary and like, what the hell is dad doing screaming downstairs?
To be honest, most of my early sports memories of you are not connected to the Seahawks in any way. I'm guessing it was going to come up at some point, but as you well know, I didn't become a Seahawks fan until I was like 11 or 12. It was pretty late. So didn't focus too much on it, but I just know the one thing I do remember is my mom and I both we tried to stay away as much as we can when you were watching Seahawks games.
Give people a little bit of color. So like we had a two level house. We had like a kind of a basement where we'd watch TV, and like what would you hear from upstairs while I was watching games?
Just a lot of angry screaming. There's not many other ways to describe it. It's mostly, to my ears at the time, gibberish. Just emotion ruled anger is how it.
Yes. I was a hothead, man. I could not watch football without getting super fired up. You mentioned that you were late to the game with football, and this was hard for me. I mean, part of the reason I wanted a son was because like we were going to share sports together, and we did with like soccer and then basketball. We'll talk a little bit about the Blazers, which I know will piss some people off, but we're going to do it anyway because I want to. But we did like baseball, like we played, but you weren't like interested in baseball, so we weren't like a huge Mariners fan. And football, you just had like no interest. Like I couldn't believe it. And then do you remember what it was that actually sparked your interest in football? Because it wasn't me. I didn't do some magic thing to get you into football. What was it?
Which I actually, before I say, I give you a lot of credit for that. I remember not having you on my ass all the time about getting into football, which I give you credit for. But the thing that got into football was downloaded a demo back when Xbox did demos for games, and downloaded a demo for Madden. I think it was Madden NFL 25, and got into it that way. I played that and eventually got the game fully.
It was So wait, Madden 25, was that the version? Because it couldn't have been the year 25.
That was the 25th anniversary.
25. Okay.
People are actually wondering what they're going to call the new one, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I actually want to ask you about Madden a little bit. So like the other thing I thought I would share with you and like that would get you into some of this stuff was like I was just a huge video game guy, and then for whatever reason, by the time like we had you and you were old enough to be into video games, I was like done with video games. So like I wasn't even playing them with you, which it's a shame, but it's just the reality. But I remember I was like, Rachel, I think he's getting into football because of this video game. And sure enough, like slowly but surely you started getting interested. I think I maybe took you to a preseason game.
Maybe.
Does that sound
I
familiar?
remember the exact year that I became a football fan because you guys made me do something, I can't remember what, but I wasn't able to watch the divisional playoff game against the Falcons when we lost. And that was the first year I was a fan.
So that would have been 2012.
The year before the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So this is like a classic story. Everyone's like, man, those bandwagon fans, I hate the bandwagon fans. And I'm like, but everyone's a bandwagon fan pretty much the first time they get on. Like, I don't know many kids, especially, that get super into a shitty sports team. Like, it's not that excited to watch a really bad football team. If you had started getting into football and then the Seahawks were really bad, you probably would have become like a Bills fan or like some other team that was really good.
I was going to say that I think you're probably right that it's harder to. I honestly think it's harder at this age to get into sports and become a fan of a shitty team because you're paying more attention as a kid. I don't remember ever really paying too close attention, but I think you're right that if the Seahawks sucked in 2012 through 2015, I don't know if I'd be a Seahawks fan today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's still not like your number one team. We'll get to your number one team in a second, but it's your number one NFL team. I think that's safe to say. So, yeah, like I forgot it was 2012. So that makes a lot of sense. And I remember like I was very aware of like, okay, this is the delicate thing. When Isaac's into something, you got to like kind of foster it. But if you push too hard and he's not into it, then he's just done. And he won't come back to it. So I was really careful about, okay, when am I going to take him to a game? Because going to a football game is a very different experience than watching it on TV. It's a very different experience than going to a Mariners game. Like it's aggressive and like it's loud and active. And you were not a big fan of loud noises back then.
No.
So do you recall at all like the first time going or like your first memory of going to a football game, even if it wasn't the first one you saw? Do you have a memory of like your first time going to see a Seahawks game?
I remember training camp, I think, was my first memory of doing anything Seahawks related. But
you thought that was pretty boring.
Yeah. I probably would still say it's pretty boring.
And most people would.
Yeah. But I think I remember we went to a preseason game. We went to get Herfy's, which I haven't had in like 10 years at least. And went there for dinner, and it wasn't the one in Seattle. It was like the one near my high school, and drove all the way to Seattle afterwards for a preseason game.
Yeah, I remember. So the way to your heart generally is through your stomach, and you're just like your dad that way. So I was like, okay, we're going to go cheeseburger. We're going to go milkshake and fries. We're going to get you all lathered up. And also we're not going to make you deal with like buses or any of that. We're going to pay the parking fee, the ridiculous parking charge. We're going to have you as close and as convenient to this thing. So there's the least possible amount of things that you could get annoyed with as possible, because I was so eager for you to actually have a good time. I think you enjoyed it. I mean, I don't think going to football games is ever like your favorite thing. But you've had some good experiences.
For a period of time. I would say like sophomore, junior year of high school, I really loved going to the Seahawks games.
Yeah, you were we had season tickets and you were one of the tickets. You'd come to pretty much every game, and you got to see your dad maybe make some bad decisions with how much he had to drink before games. But
I
like,
do actually remember. I might have been my first regular season game. I think there's a good chance, but I remember you. I think it was maybe against 49ers,
oof.
and you might have almost. You didn't actually start a fight, but got into it seriously with some opposing fans.
Yeah, that does not sound like me. I think you got the wrong guy. Yeah, I've mellowed for sure, but back then I was not mellow, especially when it came to the 49ers. Yeah, like we saw some great games together. I think if I'm right, is your favorite game that you've attended the game against the Steelers when it was like back and forth, or maybe the Texans with Deshaun Watson? Like,
Yeah,
are those?
I was going to say those two games were probably the number 1 and 2. There's honorable mention would be my only playoff game actually, which was when Cam took that pick six to the house
Against the Panthers.
Panthers. That was awesome. Yeah, I think if I had to choose one, I'd go Texans. That game was, we had that annoying ass fan in front of us, kept doing like this the whole game. Oh my god, it drove me nuts.
Was that the guy that did this with the gloves?
I don't know. Not sure. I just remember him doing the horns up, whatever the fuck they do. I mean, it's just it was a fun game to win.
See, that's my energy, is like the best feeling after these people are so obnoxious coming into your stadium, and then you just get to send them home with a big L on their foreheads. And yeah.
Oh, you know what? Maybe the best game I've ever been to though was not in CenturyLink. The only game I've been to in another stadium in Gillette.
That's right. Right. That was a fantastic. That's one of the best games that people don't talk about for the Seahawks as much, to be honest. Tell people about that. That was in New England, right? This was after we had lost the big Super Bowl to them, and I think it was the first time we had played them since that game.
CJ Procise had 3 touchdowns. I think Doug Baldwin also had 3 touchdowns. I think Earl picked off Brady.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a fun game. It was close to the end.
It was, and I don't know if they both had 3 touchdowns, but they both had good games. And Russ had a great game that day. Procise was off the charts, and Earl actually, I think he like lacerated Gronk's spleen or something. He hit Gronk so hard.
He blew him up. Yeah. I remember that.
And then the very end of that game was Brady trying to throw it to Gronk in the end zone, and Cam was on him. Yes. And all the Patriots fans were complaining that it was pass interference, but it was good defense.
They gave them their excuse, but
yeah. So do you remember walking out of that stadium?
That was the last thing I was going to bring up. Was back, I can't remember what Twitter. I don't know if it's their current version of or their old version of a live stream. It was some name for it. You were testing it out and basically just live streamed the entire walk from our seats to our car.
Yes. I mean,
you were like getting.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Sorry, you still there? Oh,
well, am I breaking up?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine now, but you froze for a second. It's that apartment Wi-Fi. That'll do it to you. Yeah. But I just remember how apathetic I felt like those fans were, and how entitled. Like they'd won so many rings. It just like, I don't know. Like I just remember being very struck by the fact this is what it feels like as a fan base when you've won that much, to where they're just so spoiled by it. They could not. I don't think they even cared that much one way or another.
Oh, you know what? I bet slipped your mind was we went to that pregame bar right near Gillette.
Yes.
I was probably like 15, 14, somewhere in that age at the time, and started shit talking that lady about Deflategate. and she didn't like it at all. You don't remember this?
No.
Oh my God. You had to like you told me like to chill. You were like, yeah, these people take it more seriously than most other fans do.
Wait, you were talking crap to someone about Deflategate?
Yeah. Some
Oh
like
my
middle-aged lady.
See, this is the stuff I need him on Father's Day. That's a proud moment. Yeah. So what's it been like for you having a dad that's this obsessed with a sport and then also does it in public, essentially, like podcasting, blogging on social media? Has that been a little weird?
Weird is definitely the main word I use to describe it.
Yeah.
I grew up. My thing has always been, and I'm sure you know, I don't tune in regularly to your podcast or regularly read your blog, and hopefully it doesn't hurt your feelings. I just have grown up with I've grown up with you sharing those same feelings and same opinions my entire life. So to me, it's just like it's always been exactly what I can get by just having a conversation with you. So when I have all these friends and all these people, and I say all these, probably like 5 or 6 in my life that have come up and been like, "Wait, you're HawkBloggerSon, aren't you?" And they expect me to be your biggest fan, and they're always shocked to hear that I'm not at all. So
Yeah.
it's a weird experience and definitely hard to describe.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, in some odd way, I don't know that the Hawk Blogger stuff would have ever even started if you had been really into football as a kid, because part of what it was that your mom wasn't into football or
You
sports
needed an outlet.
and you weren't. So I was obsessed, and I also worked in tech. So like most of the people I worked with were kind of geeky, not into sports. And, so this was the outlet. But if you had been super into football, that might have been where that some of the energy would have gone. Who knows? But it's funny. I always get a kick out of that. And I know like you are more of a Blazers fan than you are a Seahawks fan by a pretty long stretch, wouldn't you say?
I mean, I think at this point in my life, I'm just more of a basketball fan than I am a football fan. But I'm not too proud to admit I'm a bit of a fair weather, at least currently. I back in high school was like live or die, Seahawks, Blazers. That was like my life. And as I got through college, my interest just dropped more and more. So the Blazers, just up until Dame left, were just more fun for me to watch because I just love Dame so much. Didn't have a player like that on the Seahawks, but yeah. Blazers, I'd say, are my team.
Yeah, we won't talk much about the Blazers because they're not much fun to talk about right now. And I don't think most people on this pod actually are interested. But yeah, it has been funny. Like all these years, people are like, "Wait, you're a Blazers fan, not a Sonics fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, I grew up in Portland. Like, I'm a Blazers fan." And by the way, Paul Allen was too, so suck it. Like, I was fans of all his teams, and he was fans of all mine. So I hoped he would bought the Mariners at one point to complete the trifecta, and the Mariners would have been a much better team much sooner. But okay, I'm going to see. I think there's maybe a couple questions. I'll let you go, but I'm going to see if any of these are questions you can ask. So I asked people if they'd submit any questions. They didn't know that you were going to be on the show. So these are probably mostly in my direction. But here's one from Dave in Boise. He asked this on Twitter. He says, NFL fans could learn a trick from soccer fans. Practice chants, dances, and songs create a better in-stadium experience than cheerleaders and canned rock music. Nothing beats an NFL game, but I'd love to see the Seahawks fans adopt the best ideas from the Sounders FC. What do you think?
Oh, Dave, you said that's his name?
Dave in Boise.
Yeah, Dave, 100%. I've been watching some of the Euros going on right now and seeing what they're doing over there. I mean, You're absolutely right. Soccer fans, they're doing something right.
I am surprised that that is your answer. Like, I find soccer, when I go to Sounders games, it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of dorky. Like, there's something like,
It's dorky for the Sounders, but when it's like some European team that has like 150 years of history, I can get behind it.
okay. I mean, I guess I'd have to experience a European game to feel it, but like, I can't imagine that there's enough toxic masculinity in the European soccer crowds, although there is. I mean, at least there used to be like all these fights that would break out. So I mean, obviously that happens regardless, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I like the organized chants. I feel I don't want to be a cheerleader. I want to scream and yell when I feel like screaming and yelling, and not be like orchestrated into doing something. Like,
Yeah,
how do you feel about the wave? Like, are you a wave guy or are you not a wave guy?
I think I loved it when I was a kid. Now I don't really care. But
Yeah, I mean,
I, I, I was just gonna say, I also think it's easy to do in soccer because nothing happens for like 30 minutes at a time. So there's nothing to cheer at.
that's right.
In football, you have something to cheer at or react to at least every play. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I would not. I would be pretty annoyed if they did that. Honestly, I think that would rank up there with when they added the new like Blitz Junior. That was like, do you remember that other like really stupid whatever it was called? Like,
here's a key thing though. If there were chants and we were our own cheerleaders, what do you think would happen to Blue Thunder?
you're entering dangerous territory.
I know you and I are alone in that, but
not everybody, like I've actually, that I've offended people that are on Blue Thunder before, and I feel bad because there's nothing against them as people, but like I absolutely hate Blue Thunder. Like I hate like one of the worst things that can happen, and I've literally changed where we go pregame because they will just come walking in, beating their friggin' drums in an enclosed space. And I'm like, I'm trying to drink, eat nachos, and have ridiculously stupid conversations with my friends. None of this is helped by you banging a loud drum. What's that?
I said, now I can only do 2 of those things.
Now I'm just like, this is so annoying. Yeah, I don't like Blue Thunder. If something would end Blue Thunder, then maybe I would consider it a positive.
I thought that might change your outlook a little bit.
It's a good point. And if you are a Blue Thunder member, apologies. Nothing personal. Corey Coleman in chat does bring up a good point. He says that Vikings do the skull chant. How do you feel about the skull chant?
I have a Minnesota Vikings friend here in Portland, and we give him shit for it all the time. I think it's the stupidest thing.
See, you're contradicting yourself a little bit, kiddo.
They're just saying the same thing over and over again and clapping their hands together. The soccer chants I think are clever a lot of the time because they're not PG by any stretch, and they will, like, when it's not racist or anything like really malicious, the chants are pretty damn hilarious.
Okay, and that's fair.
Is not. I mean, it's just.
Did you see the video going around the internet about the Albanian fan snapping the spaghetti in front of the Italian? That was fantastic. I wish there was a way to be like talk trash to opposing fans in a way that was not like aggressive, like, or wasn't like provocative in a mean way, but also was just like really getting at them. I loved that, man. I mean, like your mom and I were talking, like, what would be the comeback for Italy against Albania? Like, I don't know enough about Albania. Like, how do you come back from spaghetti breaking?
I mean, the way they get back is by beating the crap out of them. It's Italy versus Albania.
That is true. That was so good, though. That was awesome seeing that. All right, let's take another question here. Thank you to Dustin for the note about the big thank you for my daily podcast. That they moved from Seattle to Nashville a few years ago, and the daily pods helped them and his sons stay connected to Seattle and give something Seahawks forward to look related to during the Dogs days this summer. So thank you to Dustin. Appreciate it, man. Next is from Bobo T. Says, happy Father's Day. Question about DK Metcalf. All right. He says, Jerry Rice aside, elite wide receivers are rarely captains or seen as true lead by example types on the team. Being far from a DK apologist myself, would you say expectations of DK being a model citizen are a bit unfair? Also, I would assume that being a second generation NFL player, his dad has probably told him to always take care of number one, and that is doesn't owe the team or organization anything besides showing up on game day. Thoughts there? What do you think about that? Do you think expectations should be that DK is a leader on the team or that he just does his job?
I say this as someone that is a pretty big DK fan. I have his jersey, and I've been pretty much by his side from day one as a fan. I don't want him to be a leader. I don't expect him to be a leader, but the past year, 2 years, he's kind of pissed me off with his diva behavior. I think you don't need to be a leader, but tone it down, I guess. Don't be a detriment to the team, because he has been on several occasions.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think there's not just a binary choice, be a leader or not be a leader, or be a leader or be an absolute detriment. Like, you can just do your job well. Like, Tyler Lockett, for many years, I would not qualify as a leader. He just was a very good receiver and was a positive influence
part of the team. Like, I think you're right. Like, he's not necessarily a leader vocally, but he embodies that team, and he has for a decade.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think my issues with DK are more I think he's capable of a lot more, and he's already done a lot, but I think he's capable of more. I think he's one of the most uniquely gifted athletes in the NFL, and that's hard to say about anybody. And I think he's a generational athlete. Like, you won't see another DK Metcalf that often, but I don't think he's really scratching the full potential. Like, I think he's just scratched the surface, and so that for me is just how much he's going to put into it. So that's one part. The other part is, it's a reality. Anyone that's played on any organized team game, if your best players are not leaders, it's not great. Like, I mean, they can just be quiet and just do their thing. That's fine. But generally, I think you're at your best when your best players are also the people that other folks can look up to and follow, and that their word carries a lot of weight, and that they can get more out of their teammates. And I don't think DK is quite as bad of a teammate as some people make him out to be. I've seen a lot of videos where Tyler makes a play that DK was a decoy on, and DK is like freaking out, excited. Or the play where he blocked for JSN against Cleveland on the game-winning touchdown on the screenplay, DK is like, he's so pumped. So he's not selfish. He's not like a me guy that he celebrates his teammates. I would like to see more from him. I think it's a good question about number one receivers. I mean, Julio Jones, was he really I think he probably was a leader for them. Is Cooper Kupp a leader on the Rams, or Puka Nacua, or Jamar Chase, or I don't know. I mean, Justin Jefferson, is Justin Jefferson not a leader on the Vikings? I don't know. I guess I that's a fair point. I'd have to think about it, and maybe it just doesn't attract that kind of player. All right, question from Jason A, and we'll let you go in a few minutes here, Isaac. Did your passion for sports, especially football, come from a shared family interest when you were a kid? If so, Any stories about those experiences? Our kids find it odd and unsettling when there's no football, baseball, or hockey on any given day. I assume that must mean that we're doing something right. So we kind of talked about your love for sports for football. Do you remember anything else? Like, is your love of sports in general like a family thing, or is there something else in it for you?
I mean, I think it started. I don't think I would have had any exposure to sports if it wasn't for family, if it wasn't for you specifically, because we both know mom was not exposing me to much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I couldn't have gotten into sports. I probably wouldn't be friends with the same. I wouldn't have gone on to be friends with the same people who share the same interests and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd say you were the main reason.
Yeah, I think my memories, like certainly with my parents were both into sports and football, and we would drive around Oregon to state high school playoff games, and watch teams that weren't even our school. Like, my sister wasn't in high school yet, I wasn't, but we'd go follow the different teams play, and they would paint the car, and like they got all into it, and we'd get like donuts on the way, and it was kind of this celebration. And we'd go watch Portland State Vikings games. They were division whatever playing. They were pretty decent back then, and we'd go to whatever that Civic Stadium or whatever it is down there was, and watch games down there. So yeah, I just grew up having a pretty positive association. Then all my friends were bound by sports. We played soccer, baseball, basketball together since first grade, and I played all the way through my varsity teams, and that's what we connected on. So yeah, sports were always just a tie that bound. And I grew up in a area that had different religious, political, like a bunch of different things than I do. And the thing that set all those divisive things aside was always sports. And so that's part of what's always kept me, like, it's a safe place to just, connect with people. And I always like that about sports. All right, 2 more questions. Can we talk, this is from Alvi, can we talk about how fun the Mariners are this year for 15 minutes? Well, I don't know if we're going to talk about it for 15 minutes, Alvi, but Isaac, I know you're a huge Mariners fan. I mean, you're keeping up with it. Shout out to Jackson, by the way. Your buddy.
I'm not going to lie and say I have been watching their games or even know what their record is. I know they're leading the division still, right?
They are.
I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not too proud to say I'm not a Fairweather fan, but I've enjoyed watching the Mariners a lot more the past few years.
Yeah. Well, Julio's a fun player. He's struggled this year. He's coming on a little bit. Had the big home run yesterday. Mariners were up 7-1 in the 9th inning, almost blew the game. So that was not fun, but they did take it. They're 7.5 games up right now on Texas. They're 9 games up on Houston. They haven't been this far up since like 2001 or something like that.
And it was like in 2001, they were like 3 games up or something at this time of the year. Some stat about like it's just been forever.
It's been a long time. And I mean, I like that they're this good. No question about that. I really would like it if they weren't so painful on offense. It's just, I did grow up watching I initially grew up watching like the Phil Bradley and Alvin Davis, and like they were bad too, but Mark Langston. But then there was the Lou Piniella, Griffey, Buhner, Edgar, A-Rod, Blowers, that generation that was just such an offensive powerhouse with Randy Johnson. And there was just so much entertaining baseball with that group. And I can't say that this group is always very entertaining. Like, I like that they win, but it's a lot of striking out. And then like they kind of put something together, and it feels like that's kind of just become baseball in general. I think they did a good job in shortening the games with the pitch count and all that. I like that. I'd like them to find out more rules to get more offense back in the game. Like it feels like the whole league's
they're trying, right? Like they made the bases bigger. They don't allow shifts anymore. Like they're trying to make steps in that direction, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if the automatic balls and strikes, if they eventually get to the robo ump, I think that'll actually hurt the offense, and I think that's part of what's keeping them from doing it, because there's a lot of pitches that are strikes that are called balls right now, and I think batters will probably be very unhappy. But anyway, I'm thrilled. In fact, the Mariners are playing right now, and that's part of why I'm going to wrap this up here in a minute with our last question. But be great if they could sweep the Rangers today. They got Logan Gilbert on the bump, and they're going against a pitcher for the Rangers that's got almost a 5 ERA. So let's wipe them out. Let's wipe them out. And then the Rangers leave from here, and they've got a rough schedule through to the All-Star break. The Mariners have to play the Guardians, and I have a good feeling how they'll play against the Guardians. I like the pitching matchup there. Hopefully Brian Wu comes back from his injury, but yeah, man, give me 15, 20 game lead. I'll take it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Last question comes from Kristen Fonte. Kristen found out you were going to be on. She says, Isaac, any funny stories you want to share about your dad? If no stories, what's a funny thing that he does that you guys joke about? Careful now.
I'm trying to think of something sports related.
It could be anything related.
Man, I mean, there's just so many that I couldn't begin to choose my favorite. But my dad comes from a family of very overly anxious, overly prepared, early to everything, and he just embodies that in a lot of ways. Showing up to airports 3 hours early, showing up to games 3 hours early. I mean, I'm trying to think of like specific stories, but I would have had something good if I had time to prepare.
Well, I think, leave it to you to exaggerate. I mean, come on. You're on the right track there with the timeliness part, but we don't get places 3 hours. Like
I think you've mellowed down in your later years.
Yeah, I mean, I came from a family where my mom would set the clocks ahead 20 minutes, so we would always get wherever we're going 20 minutes early, and she would act like that was late. So you can imagine the clocks being 20 minutes ahead, and then acting like you need to be there even before that to get on time. It was very annoying, and then you just sit there. So I would say after probably the age of 30, I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to be early. I don't want to be late. I think the world is way too late in general. I think being late is unkind and a little bit selfish. Like, your time is more important than someone else's. So I don't like to ever be late. And that served me pretty well, but I don't want to be that early either. The ideal is to be right on time.
Yeah.
And so I get to the airport now. I cut it as close as I think most anybody. I get to the airport at most an hour before the flight. And then I breeze through with, I get all the security things, all that kind of stuff. But and the Seahawks games, I don't know. We get there early to watch the early games, but we go to bars. We don't get to the actual game until 45 minutes, half an hour before kickoff, something like that. So calm down over there.
Yeah. I'm trying to preserve your image a little bit.
No, you shouldn't. That's actually the wrong thing to do. You should absolutely slash my image. People would enjoy that.
Next time you bring me on, I'll have some more material ready.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. All right. Well, anything else, Isaac, that you have to say about sports, Seahawks, anything else, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Nothing comes to mind. I'm excited for the Seahawks season more than I have been. And
yeah, are you gonna play the new Madden? Are you intrigued? I think you like.
No, I doubt it. There's a chance I play NCAA because even though I don't follow college sports and college football that closely at all, it's like this huge life-changing moment for a lot of people I know that they're coming back out with the new NCAA game. So I might play that a little bit.
You used to play that, didn't you? Like I thought you took a player and like got him all the way up until he could go to NFL, and then you could play him in Madden or something. Wasn't that something that you did?
I don't know. I mean, there have been 2Ks and Maddens in the past. Like you start in college and move your way.
Okay.
So maybe you're thinking of that, but no,
Yeah.
never played the NCAA games.
All right. Well, kiddo, I appreciate you coming on. Love you, and hopefully you have some fun planned for the rest of your Sunday before the work week. And then you're coming up here. We're hitting the trails, man. So
yeah, we are.
You're gonna have to drag your dad up and down, and all this running you've been doing, preparing for the Portland Marathon. We're gonna see if you can outrun the Grizzlies, because they'll be looking for us, I think, once we get up there.
Yeah, don't worry about me.
Okay.
Love you.
All right.
Happy Father's Day.
Thanks, kiddo. Thank you. All right. And happy Father's Day to everybody else. Hope you have a great day. Please give the show a like, click subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, actually, John Boyle is going to be on the show at 9 a.m. We will recap his impressions of the Seahawks OTAs and mini camps to date. Should be fun. Haven't talked to John for a while, so looking forward to that. Until then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.